Former FAMU head coach Willie Simmons is given the blueprint on how to make it from the HBCU level to the FBS level as a head coach, but he hopes to make it to where his former peers no longer have to take that route. Oh yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current site expert at Who Dat Dish and contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusive. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. We'll wrap up today's episode with the fact that P4s have been feasting on HBCU track and field teams more than I remember in recent history. In segment 2, we're going to dig into our Monday mailbag because one comment gives the real reason that LaShawn McCoy is present at MEAC Media Day. Before we get into segment 1, I want to start off with just a quick but very important shout out to Ty Floyd, who was recently named the play-by-play announcer for Alabama A&M football. That makes her the first woman ever to hold that title, not just at Alabama A&M, but at any HBCU for their football team. Extremely deserving. She's been on the show before. She's extremely talented, extremely hardworking. So I was very happy when I saw that announcement. Congratulations to Ty and to her family. Now, that being said, today's episode is about Willie Simmons in segment 1, from one former Rattler to another former Rattler, or really just a Rattler. She graduated. Willie's still connected, and you could tell by the fact that Coach Simmons sat down with HBCU Game Day, which is very important to me, but he gave the blueprint on how to make it from the HBCU to an FBS as a head coach. The reason him sitting down with HBCU Game Day is so important to me is because, to me, that encapsulates who he is in relation to this. I don't know Willie Simmons. I've had one conversation with him at a press conference. And that conversation was all of 2 sentences. So I don't know Willie Simmons at all. But what I can say is, from everything that I've seen, Willie Simmons is extremely connected, not only to FAMU, but to HBCUs. This means something to him, to Tallahassee. Like this community on 3 different levels, whether it's the city of Tallahassee, whether it's FAMU and the alums that span all over the country, all over the world, or if we're talking about HBCUs. This has always seemed very important to him. No one has ever questioned that. Another thing that no one ever questioned is where his long-term goals lie. We all knew that Willie Simmons wanted to be an FBS head coach. Quite frankly, he wants to be a P4 head coach. I don't know of anybody who wants to be an FBS head coach and not make it up to the FBS level or to the P4 ranks. And excuse me for the division, but there is a difference between P4 and G5. You can tell by the way that they're treated. You can tell by how they're included in the FCS or the FBS playoffs, or college football playoffs. That's what they call it. You can tell there's a difference, right? And there's going to be a quote from Willie Simmons from this Game Day interview that honestly, I think highlights the distinction, but I just wanted to give my own take on it as well. The reason people were confused about Willie Simmons' departure is not because he left. Everybody was saying it's a matter of when and where. So we expected it, and we were just trying to find out where he would land. The thing is, I don't think people expected him to go to Duke as a positional coach. Is it a jump? Depends on how you look at it. It's a jump from the FCS to the P4, but it's a drop from head coach to running backs coach. I think we had a conversation around the salary at the time. I think the salary, though it wasn't available, we projected it'd be pretty close. So from a financial standpoint, it didn't seem like a huge bump for him. And you got to remember at that time, FAMU had just come off, and I don't mean like a year ago. I mean, a couple weeks ago, FAMU had just come off of their Celebration Bowl victory. So you're looking at Willie Simmons going from a championship winning coach to a positional coach. And a lot of people scratch their head wondering why. Not only would he do that, why did he have to do that? That was a huge conversation. And one quote that he had really does explain why he had to do it. We'll get into why he doesn't want anyone else to have to do that. But he gave an explanation on why he chose this route. And it's also what explains the difference between P4 and G5, in my opinion. Willie says, it's been well documented about the lack of minority head coaches at the FBS level. And after speaking to my mentors and other prominent figures in the profession, I was advised that the best chance for me to become one of the few was to get the P4 coaching experience. He did that. And he is now at Florida International. It only took a year. It only took 1 year. And I know a lot of people are sitting here thinking, man, Simmons could have made it to a G5 head coaching offer if he stayed at FAMU. And I would like to say yes, but can we say that with confidence? Can we say that undoubtedly, that BD always flips like that? It always messes me up. But anyway, undoubtedly, can we say, hey, Willie Simmons stays at FAMU for a season, and now he's at FIU? I don't think we can. I know I can't. I know that I can't. And the mentors that he's talking about, you had Manny Diaz, who he ended up going to work for. You had Dabo Sweeney, who was a part of that conversation. You had Nick Saban. So you're looking at some pretty high-ranking football coaches here, specifically Nick Saban. He's the guy, right? Simmons says you needed P4 coaching experience, not FBS. I don't think that was an accident. I don't think that was a slip up. I don't think that it was interchangeable. He said he needed P4 experience. So what does he do? He goes to the P4 ranks knowing that, hey, if I go get, let's just use FIU. If I go become their running backs coach, or if I go become their offensive coordinator, it might not get me where I need to go. But that P4, sometimes it's just about checking the box. That's it. And it seems like that's what it was, because a year later, he's in FIU. And it's kind of hard to fault him. I know when we're thinking about his acceleration and his movement to the FBS level as a head coach, you probably thought it was going to be nonstop. You probably thought it was going to be a straight flight, but it ended up being connected. He ended up having to go from Tallahassee to Duke. Now he's at FIU, right? So he ended up having to go from FAM to Duke to FIU, but it's okay because he got where he wanted to go, and he did it really fast. I think that's one reason it's difficult to really complain or critique him. Could he have stayed at FAMU one more year? Yeah. But here's the thing. I think it might have taken another championship. And FAMU has been one of the 2 to 4 best HBCUs for the last 3 years of his tenure, right? Like, they won the championship his last year, the year before, and the year before that, they were the second best team in the SWAC, arguably the second best team in HBCU football. They just weren't better than Jackson State on that day, either time. Right? Like, you could say second, third, because Jackson State didn't end up winning the championship. So maybe you want to say that the third best. Like, this is a school, this is a team that knows how difficult that it is to win a championship. The iron probably wasn't going to get hotter for Willie Simmons. So he goes to Duke. He does what he needs to do. It helps that Duke had a really good season this year, right? Like, that was beneficial that he didn't go somewhere and they were bad. He goes to Duke. They accelerate. They're good. Now he's able to turn that into an FIU offer. Checks the box, has success, right? I don't know if he just checks it by going, but he has success and he checks it. Now he's where he wants to be. That's why I can't complain. I can't really disagree with him. And then it's the other thing that he says. He says, hopefully, future qualified HBCU head coaches don't have to make the same sacrifices I made to achieve the goal of becoming an FBS head coach. And I think the only real way to do that is to be successful at FIU. And because he's already put that into the atmosphere, we can put that pressure on him. I don't think that it's unwarranted. His success could greatly impact the way that HBCU head coaches are able to matriculate up the ladder. I don't think that's dramatic to say. I don't think it's dramatic to say that what Willie Simmons does at FIU could greatly impact the guys like Trey Oliver, Shennis Berry, right? Like these are big time names. These are coaches who have had success, and these are coaches who I believe in greatly. I think they could climb the ladder if they wanted to leave South Carolina State and North Carolina Central. I believe that they could. But would they go the G5 or excuse me, would they go the P4 positional coach route? I don't know. I don't know. That's something that would have to be seen. But I could see someone saying, I don't want to do that. I could see someone saying, why would I leave being a head coach to go be a positional coach and maybe get back to being a head coach? It's not enough of a sure thing for some people. So Willie Simmons is saying, I'm getting to the point where I don't have to go through a connecting, right? Like we're going to keep that flight analogy. I don't have to do a connecting flight. It can be nonstop. And don't tell me about Deion. Don't tell me about Eddie, because they are different, right? Like Eddie George and Deion Sanders are different entities. They should not be compared to someone like Willie Simmons, Chennis Berry, Trey Oliver. That's the way I view it. As we push forward, we're going to take a look at our Monday mailbag. Somebody told me this is the real reason that LaShawn McCoy is present at MEAC Media Day. And you know what? I like this theory. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime, and I can't get my eyes off of these Dallas Wings tickets. I really want to go see them against the Las Vegas Aces. I don't know if I want to go Wednesday, that's coming up right now, like this Wednesday, or if I want to go next Sunday. I might not even be here on next Sunday. So I'm weighing my options on what I'm going to do, but I have my eyes on those tickets. I haven't looked at anywhere else. I haven't gone to the only place I've gone is Gametime. It's the only name that I'm going to mention. You did not skip. I'm just not naming anyone else because who else really matters? If I need my Wings tickets, if I need my ballet tickets, if I need my comedy show tickets, need my theater tickets, need my concert tickets, need my NFL tickets, because those are coming up, everything, I can get it on Gametime, and it's the only place I would go. So don't go over there. Stay right here. And if you're new to Gametime, use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off your first purchase. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day for your second listen. Make sure you're checking out Locked On Saints, right? If you're new to this, know that Locked On Saints has the Saints Squad show on Mondays, as well as Ross's solo show. He's putting in big time work, and it's always one of the things that I keep in my rotation. Now, we're going into our Monday mailbag. I love this. Pierre Jones 1262 said, I didn't know Locked On had this going on. Just subscribed. Love. Matter of fact, I don't think I love the comment. I just did this live on air. So, but thank you. I appreciate it. It's always cool when people tell me that they didn't know Locked On was doing this, because I am so unique. The show, that kind of came out kind of cocky, but the show is very unique to what it is that Locked On puts on outside of my programming. So it is always cool when people say, I didn't know this, because I understand how you could miss it. But thank you for the subscription. I appreciate you so much. And then I'm going to say Mike L. Smalls 274. I think that's Mike L. I think that's the middle name. Mike L. Smalls 274. He gave his take on why LaShawn McCoy is really at MEAC Media Day. He says, sniffing that Howard job, putting the heat in the conference. I'm interested because last week on Monday, we discussed LaShawn McCoy's inclusion in MEAC Media Day. Does it make a lot of sense to me? No. I've said I think it'd be better if he did a sit-down interview with Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson before the Norfolk State versus Delaware State game that will be held at Eagle Stadium. That, to me, is the best place to do it. But the MEAC said, we want you to be a special guest host. And I thought to myself, why? It's not that beneficial. I don't know if he's going to come in and talk to North Carolina Central or South Carolina State or Howard. But speaking of Howard, Mike says it's all a ploy by McCoy to get in and see what's going on. Now, I'll say this. It's not the craziest theory I've ever heard. Matter of fact, it's not even the first time I've heard the theory. This is not something that is foreign to me. I don't know how much legs that it has, but The theory has never been that LaShawn McCoy is going to sniff around it. Matter of fact, this isn't a theory. LaShawn McCoy said he wants that job. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he did. LaShawn McCoy said he wants to coach at Howard. I forgot about that. I completely forgot. He says, Howard, listen, you have a lot of great history and tradition, and it would be an honor to accept the head coaching job at Howard University. I will make sure that them brothers will be good and disciplined and great young men. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Mike Smalls, thank you. Because you just put something in my mind that I completely forgot about. Mike, you got it, man. I asked the question. I asked this. I asked, what was the MEAC getting out of bringing LeSean McCoy to MEAC Media Day? And I think that's one side of the coin. But Mike, you just opened up a whole new can of worms. You just flipped over to the other side of the coin, because the real question should be, what is LeSean McCoy getting out of going to MEAC Media Day? He ain't just going to kick it with Vic and Jackson. He could be sniffing around the job that he's already expressed he wants. He did say, I want to coach at Howard. Who's at MEAC Media Day? Who can he get? And I don't think being there alone is an interview, right? I don't think he's going there like, hey, what's going on? But it wouldn't shock me if he spoke to somebody at Howard. Just like, hey, I was serious. Just so you know, I was serious. I don't think there's going to be too much else outside of that. I don't think there's much he can do. But it also wouldn't shock me if that Howard job came available soon. It would not shock me if after this season, Howard is looking for another head coach. I'll be honest with you, because when you look at Kenny Blakeney, I think a lot of people are upset with how he handled the Celebration Bowl against FAMU. I think a lot of people feel like if they would, and I've had somebody say this to me directly, that he is the reason that the Bison lost that game. His poor coaching, his poor play calling, his almost stubbornness in his play calling to not break away from what he was trying to do. I think that was there. I don't think that who told me is the only person to feel that way. And then also, they were bad last year. It was bad, like not unsuccessful. They were bad in 2024. So it wouldn't shock me if another bad season results in Blakeney being out of here. Now, I'm not saying that LaShawn McCoy is the guy who's going to get the job, but the idea that LaShawn McCoy is at MEAC Media Day just to get close to FAMU, or excuse me, to get close to Howard, sniffing that job, I like it. I like this theory. Mike L. Smalls, I'm be honest with you. Mike L. Smalls, 274, you have my favorite comment of the Monday mailbag history. I don't know who's going to top this. But this is my favorite comment thus far. Very close second to the person who said they just subscribed. But but this is good. This is good. I like that theory, man. I like that. Y'all can tell I do this thing where I'm going to start repeating myself multiple times as I realize how much I like something. I do it all the time, but I just try not to do it on the show. So let's move to the second comment of the MEAC, or of the Monday mailbag. Sutter Kane, 8994. I hope I said that right. I'm not going to say it again because I'm not confident that I said it right. But talking about HBCUs being a part of the EA Sports college basketball reboot, he says, or she says, they were already on March Madness. Every conference that competes for the tournament is on March Madness. And yes, I miss playing with Tennessee State versus whoever on March Madness. I was ranked online top 10 overall of users on that B. He actually doesn't say the word. He just says B, or she just says B. I didn't play the game. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't play that game. I don't think I've ever picked up. Oh no, I might have picked up when Blake Griffin was on the cover, but I don't remember the last time that I picked it up. When they canceled it, I didn't care. Matter of fact, I don't think I knew when they canceled it until years later down the line. Someone said, they don't make EA basketball either. I was like, oh yeah, I guess they don't. I guess they don't make that either. Okay. So this was not my cup of tea, right? So this March Madness thing, I'm assuming was kind of a mode, kind of like Road to Glory. Now, I played EA college football. I may get the new one. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm not on the fence anymore. I'm not getting that game. But I y'all go through my life with me, all right? Thank you. But I think that this is not only is it something that you can actually have accessible to you, it's something that you'll enjoy. Because what does HBCU inclusion in EA college football look like? You know, like it's not winning a national championship. I don't know how you could do that unless you are going to move your HBCU into a new conference. And now, like you could do that, I guess. But if you include FCS schools, what's the best? You get an FCS championship, which I don't even know if it's necessarily realistic, because if you're the best HBCU, you wouldn't have that opportunity. So the inclusion in the college football game is weird. It's not going to be precise. But as far as basketball, you can be precise. As far as basketball, you can go in as a 16 seed, right? If they seed things normally, a 16, 15, maybe 14 seed, and you could go be the Cinderella winner in March Madness. I'm assuming that's a mode where it's a 64-team tournament. I think it's perfect. I just think EA Sports has an HBCU market in basketball that is better. I'm not saying it's more. I think more people want it in football, but in basketball, it's better to me. So I want to give a highlight to those 3 comments. Thank you. Let's keep the Monday mailbag rolling. You can drop a comment any day, and I will try to pick out 2 to 4 of them to really roll with on our episode. Speaking of this episode, let's close it out with track and field, because the P4s have come a calling, and I don't remember them feasting on HBCUs the way that they have been recently, but that's the biggest story in the sport this offseason. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. This is odd, but it feels like the feasting upon HBCU track and field via P4 programs has been the biggest story in the track and field sport this offseason, and I don't really remember it being a thing prior to this. I understand that you always were going to have transfers who go from HBCUs to P4. I don't need to express the ins and outs of it. This is so that the rich get richer. It is. It's about player mobility, but it results in the rich getting richer, especially with the NIL and everything. But when I'm looking at it, when I think HBCU track and field, since I've covered this show, I think about North Carolina A&T, about them building a program. Yes, Coach Ross eventually left, by the way. His son is now available to start running again after a 3-year suspension. But I think about Coach Ross and everything that I hope that didn't come off shady. Like he was out, and I seen it recently. So it just came to my mind when I mentioned Coach Ross. But you had Coach Ross, and he stuck in North Carolina A&T for a while. He built up a program. They were sustainable. They had multiple athletes who were doing well. They had Olympic athletes. Like, it was a big-time story about these guys who were at A&T, and it wasn't one-hit wonders. It wasn't. It was people who stayed at A&T. Yes, Ross ended up leaving, but that's a coaching change. That's not even a transfer portal. That's completely different, and he stayed around longer than we thought he would. Then I think about last year, Caleb Snowden out of UAPB at the Olympic trials. Jamarion Stubbs at the Olympic trials at via Alabama State. I think about the Howard women's relay team, and those were compiled of women who had been in Howard for a while. Like, the point I'm making here is not only was the transfer portal not the biggest conversation around HBCU track and field, you also had stories about people who had high level of success and then came back. Snowden came back. Stubbs came back. Multiple of those Howard relay members had came back after that season that we're talking about. Same with A&T. It feels like I had all of these successes to point to that didn't get ended by the transfer portal. In 2024, it feels like all of the successes are ended by the transfer portal. 2025, excuse me. Right? Like Stubbs is a perfect case study. Stubbs was a part of my previous list. A&T, Howard relay team, Caleb Snowden, Stubbs himself, right? These are all high achievers who stayed where they were, stayed at HBCUs. But now Stubbs, a year after being in the Olympic trials, which was confusing to me because it felt like that's when the iron was the hottest, He's now moving on to the P4 level. And he's not alone. It's multiple people. But it feels like, okay, you had the Johnson C. Smith runner. He had a huge freshman year. He was going crazy. He didn't stay at Johnson C. Smith. What was his name? Tyson Williams. He didn't stay. Went to South Carolina. Amariana Lofton, also D2 to P4. She's at Purdue. So you have all these successes. It's not like it used to be. It's very confusing to me. It's very odd to me. But this is the biggest story. And I understand that every single sport has this happen. But Cardell Thibodeau, Juan Cruz, those two players entering the transfer portal, it's not as big of a story as it's not as much of a wide-ranging story as this right here. 2 D2 athletes making up to the P4 level, one man, one woman. Two of the premier athletes, because now you have Stubbs, but you also got Kirk Dawkins, who comes out of FAMU. He was at Nationals this year as an 800 runner, and he was the only representative from an HBCU. You have guys who are the best of the best. They're now leaving. And that's not strange. It's just odd that so many people are gone this same way. It's just odd. Because like I said, you point back to previous examples, this was not the case. You point back to Stubbs a year ago, not the case. Snowden a year ago, not the case. Howard Relay, not the case. A&T, not the case. They built a powerhouse with the Aggies. They built a track and field powerhouse at an HBCU in a day and age when everybody wants to go to the big school. That's rare. I don't see it happening again because everybody who succeeds is out the door like that. Not me though. I'm eating over here. No, I'm just being. I'm just dumb. I'm dumb. I don't know why I said this, but I don't think that there's an answer to keeping athletes. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that there is an answer to keeping athletes. They have to just want to be here. I don't know how long this continues, but when I think about football, I think about them feasting on HBCUs. When I think about basketball, I really don't think about P4s feasting on HBCUs. I just think about the handful of people. It's less people in basketball, though, right? Like, we have to be real. It's 22 starters in football. It's 5 starters in basketball. So there's almost as many people on one side of the ball as a starter. I'm not even talking about a backup, but it's almost as many people on one side of the ball as a starter as it is in basketball on the entire team. I could make an argument that there are more starters on each side of the ball. If I want to be real, all right, like, you got a starting tight end, you got about 3 starting wide receivers. You may have 2 starting running backs. Don't let it be a rotation of 3, right? Like, you can go deep in here. Like, you have 2 tight ends. Like, I'm just saying. All in all, it feels like HBCU's track and field is becoming a real feast for P4s, at least this offseason. Hopefully it doesn't continue because I want to see my people stay. We'll be back tomorrow with an episode about North Carolina A&T and Hampton. We were supposed to do that today, but I keep forgetting we're not in love anymore. I keep forgetting how you made that so clear. Anyway, I keep forgetting about Monday mailbags until we get to Monday. So that got A&T versus Hampton pushed out of here. But we'll be talking about the HBCU All-Star Classic at NBA All-Star Weekend on tomorrow's episode. In the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.